All right. Hello again.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well.
We're back with another episode of Financial Therapy. We are talking today about money mindsets and how money mindsets kind of work. One of the first things that I think everybody should start with as far as like how they interact with their finances is probably thinking about their origin stories, and we've covered that in a previous episode as far as how you grow up with money, how your parents operate with money really is going to affect how you interact with money as you get older, and what you think is possible or not possible. And so these money mindsets, I've done a lot of financial coaching and small business coaching, and these are more focused on how we utilize our money or how we earn our money. But obviously money in, money out, that's kind of everything.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk a bit about kind of these two ends of each of these spectrums, and how we can start thinking about them a little bit differently. So I'll just cut to the chase. 6 money mindsets. We've got minimizer, maximizer, saver, investor, responder, and director.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So,
Do tell.
Those are very general
Yeah.
terms, right? I think some of the things I want to mention about these money mindsets is that they really do, you can be in these mindsets regardless of whether you actually have money or not.
Okay.
Okay, so literally, whether you're scraping by or you have an abundance of wealth, or whether either is the case right now, whether you've experienced those things in the past, the way that you think about money might fall into one of these categories. And it's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, or a right or a wrong thing.
Okay.
When we start talking about these, I think hopefully you'll see what I mean. I've tried to kind of think about some examples of this, because I guess the more important thing before we get started is to recognize that we're not trying to shame anybody for being any one of these money mindsets.
Okay. That's
One,
good.
yeah, one is not necessarily better than another. So when I say money, you minimize money, that doesn't mean that you don't want to make money, or you don't pay your bills, or you don't care necessarily about money. It might mean that you just don't prioritize that as part of that interaction or circumstance in your life. And the last thing I'll mention before we dig deeper into these is that you could be a minimizer in some circumstances and a maximizer in other circumstances. So maybe you are a minimizer when it comes to purchasing a car. Like, you don't care about spending on quality or anything like that. You just
Whatever gets you there.
Yeah, whatever gets you there. So
Yeah.
you're like basics when it comes to that, but maybe you're a maximizer when it comes to purchasing stocks. Like, you are in it to win it. You are looking at all of the different angles and making sure that you're making the most profitable decision possible.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
You can embody these mindsets differently for different circumstances.
So it's all about priorities. Like,
It is.
Where are your priorities?
Yeah, where are your priorities? And if you start thinking about how you're feeling in each one of these spaces when you're talking about making money decisions or financial decisions, and which mindset you might be living in making that decision, then it probably will help you make a wiser decision, and one that's, yes, it takes priorities and emotions and things like that into account, but maybe they don't weigh as heavily because you're checking that fear or that guilt or that shame.
Gotcha.
Okay,
That makes sense.
sweet. So let's start with minimizers. So these guys tend to have a low risk tolerance. Money is kind of a means to an end. And so it's about spending as little as possible to get the job done, basically.
Right.
And so these folks, I mean, I would say that when it comes to like taking on any sort of debt, I start getting into this space. Like, I do not like, for instance, especially, I'm going to go back to my car example. I'm driving a 10-year-old car right now, and I'm going to drive that baby into the ground. It gets me there, and it is free, and I'm like, woo, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I know you are like the opposite.
I am the opposite. I want a new car. I don't want car problems.
Yeah.
You know, I will pay for just that peace of mind.
Yeah.
Give me that peace of mind, and, you know, so I want a newer car.
Yeah. And so I'm sure that when you go for a newer car, you do maybe a lot of research. You want to make sure that you're getting the best car. I know what kind of car you drive, so I'm not going to say, but it's a very reliable car. It's a very, you know, and so you're totally on it. You're paying for that peace of mind. You're willing to maximize the money that you spend by getting a quality vehicle. And I'm not saying my vehicle is a piece of...
No, it's not at all.
It's nice. It's lasted 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why is because it is a quality car. But I put my, I guess, maximizing on the front end. And at this point, I'm like, I'm not willing to spend any more here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good.
Which is smart. You know, I wish I tended to be in that category a lot of times. So maybe I need to rethink that. I don't know.
This is the best thing. Like, I don't think either one of the positions is right?
Yeah.
Like, if I were driving a car and there were a lot of problems with it, I would be like, this is ridiculous. You need to go spend money on a car and maximize the money that you're spending on a quality product instead of, oh, I have it in the shop again and it cost me $500.
Exactly. See, I think that's my aversion to the older car. It's like, I don't know how much I would end up paying.
Yeah.
I know a set amount that I'm going to pay every month to have my car.
As soon as mine does me wrong, I will be singing another tune.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so that's minimizer, maximizer. I think where I'm a maximizer, by the way, is a lot of times like, I am that person who looks at my investments and makes sure that, like, I'm not paying too much, my expense ratios are all low, like all of the ways that I could be leaking money in my investments, I'm really serious about that. And so I will invest more of my time, my energy, and my actual dollars on maximizing that. When the reality is I could probably maybe pay somebody to do that work, but I'm like, no. I'm good. I want to make the most out of this as I possibly can, and I'm willing to spend my resources to make that happen. Yeah, exactly. Okay, the next kind of balancing act is between saver and investor. And again, those are both good things, but it does make it hard to do both at the same time. So maybe in some aspects of your life or some areas of your life, you're more of a saver, and in some areas of your life, you're more of an investor. And what I mean by that is savers tend to value security, predictability. They tend to be cost conscious. Investors value spending money on worthy priorities, and they also tend towards price inelasticity. So, in other words, like if something costs a little more, but you know it's a higher value product, you're willing to spend on that.
Yeah.
So, curious to hear your thoughts on saving versus investing.
Well, younger. I tended to be more of a saver. Like I would just, get what was going to get me by, for the least amount of money.
Yeah.
But now I really, as I've grown older, I think about it more and I'm like, okay, well, this is going to last longer if I invest in this product.
Yeah.
Then I'm not going to have to deal with, I'm purchasing it again and another,
So I'm saving money on the front end, but not really.
Yeah.
I think that is super wise. I think a lot of times people are kind of nervous about the idea of investing, of spending on something that you've decided is a priority, and they'd rather just, and it's such a responsible thing to do, honestly, to be a saver, to be the person who's like, just gonna keep putting money away, and and it's gonna be right over here.
Yeah.
And it's like gonna be there when I need it. That is super responsible, but it also is responsible to see those dollars and know there's an opportunity cost for leaving them as saved dollars and never investing them in something. So I think, when it comes to saving, a lot of people find it motivating. I think there was an episode where you were talking about your son wanting to go to Europe.
Yes.
And it's motivating to save if you can see the goal in sight.
Yes.
And what I think is so interesting is sometimes we get stuck in that saver mode, and when it comes time for him to actually pull the trigger and buy the tickets, like, is he going to invest in the experience?
Gonna be like, wait,
yeah,
I have all of this money here, and I've worked really hard for all of this.
What do I invest in? Yeah. So, you have to think about, okay, am I interested in, for sure, investing these dollars that I have saved in this experience of Europe?
Do I choose to invest in something else?
Yeah.
Or just continue to save?
Correct. So it's a decision to be made, and it might shift you from saver to investor with many different circumstances. If you wanted to go back to school, you go from a saver usually to an investor, or someone who, going back to our maximizer, is maximizing your dollars because you're going to take a risk on yourself and spend some money. That's a hard mentality to shift into unless it's a very intentional thing and you are seeing it as, oh, okay, I am shifting now from saver to investor, and I'm investing in myself, or I'm investing in my retirement, or whatever it is, or investing in this trip, or a home, whatever. Okay, so let's move on to our last kind of dichotomy. It's responder and director. Okay. So responders are more reactive in meeting financial needs, challenges presented by work, family, other areas of life. So a good example of a responder might be, okay, I do have car trouble. I have this emergency fund. I know that I have this money available, so therefore I'm not going to be so concerned about regular maintenance. I mean, I'm just making this up. I'm not going to be so concerned about that. If something happens, then I will respond, and I know that I have the resources to do that. A director is more proactive about researching, communicating, planning around finances. If something happens, they have the money not just saved away, but a specific bucket for everything, or things like that. They're the type of person to where perhaps if something does occur and you got to get a new roof for your house and you've got a huge deductible or something like that, where they don't put that on a credit card and then pay it off. They have a roof deductible fund, or they have an emergency something that says, okay, if something like this happens, I have this policy over here and this policy over here, and I'm going to cut my deductible by doing X, Y, and Z. They're more ahead of the game as far as planning for specific instances of things. And so it makes it a little bit easier to adjust as you go along.
Goals.
Yeah, but it takes so much time and energy and effort to do that sort of thing that there is an opportunity cost to just not having kind of a general understanding that you could respond to a problem. And the other thing is that person might also be a little bit more proactive about, okay, well, I know my car is getting older, so in 2 years, I'm going to sell this car, and then I'm going to purchase something new. And so they almost take care of the problem or the concern before they would need to respond to it.
Yes.
There is, again, a pro and a con to being that decisive around like what you want to do next.
Well, inflexibility is one of them, or I can see that little little OCD.
But there are a lot of people out there for whom that is how they can like feel safe and secure in managing finances. You know, if you're saying, hey hun, you got the new car, I'm gonna get the new car next, and we're gonna start looking in June and this and that just, it does save you from the inevitable, like, oh, the car broke down and now we're having to, exactly. And so again, it's not that either one of these people has necessarily less resources or is right about how they're making those determinations, or what their mindset is. It's just like, okay, maybe in certain instances you are more of a director and you are more of a planner, and you know what the path is financially, you know what everything is going to cost, and you've laid it all out. Maybe in some cases you're like, I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to,
I'm just thinking of like an example, because we both have vacations coming up. So exciting. But like, if you're a vacation planner, like you will have all of that set, and that's like very structured. But other areas you may just be like,
I'm good.
I'll deal with it.
And think about, like, they're both necessary to be at certain times.
Yes.
Like, I don't like going on vacation and having every moment of every day scheduled. But I also don't like the idea of, like, showing up and, nothing is really planned and, like, nobody knows nothing about nothing. Like, we're just kind of wandering in the wilderness. Well, we got on this plane and we landed here. So, happy vacation. And so I feel like that's a perfect analogy, travel is, to these things. There's a good and a bad. There are pros and cons to being overly planning, or an overly planning individual, or not. And especially when it comes to finances, you better probably have like a general plan, like a general understanding of what's going on, and then beyond that, it really is kind of a personal preference. Like, maybe your personal preference is to have everything laid out and no surprises, and maybe there's a surprise or two along the way, but you're able to handle those surprises, and it gives you more peace of mind to be more of that planner, versus somebody who's like, life happens, and so I'm just gonna like do my best to respond as things happen. But with all of these money mindsets, what I would say is that if you don't have a budget as an initial suggestion of how you should be making your financial decisions and setting your priorities, that's going to make these mindsets really challenging, no matter which side you fall on, because you will constantly kind of be chasing and or be victim to whatever emotions or mindset you're feeling at the time, especially with each one of these categories. You may feel completely different about retirement, housing, taxes, insurance, investments, all of these different aspects of finances than in other aspects of finances. And so taking a tick and just thinking about what mindset you're in and why that might be the case, and maybe how you could shift to find more balance, is probably a good thing. So,
love it.
All right. Well, that is that for today, money mindsets. I hope this gets you guys thinking, and that you have a good rest of your week.